This is an emergency. What are you receiving?
Oh my God, we got attacked.
Who attacked you?
I don't know.
You don't know who attacked you? Is that your home?
Yeah, I don't know.
And stab her again, and again, and again. While in the coming year,
it was Halloween night in Napa Valley, a night where streets echoed with laughter and costumes hid familiar faces. But for three young women, this night held a different story. Inside a quiet home, Lauren, Adriane, and Leslie enjoyed the festive evening, completely unaware of the presence nearby, an unseen figure waiting in the shadows. As they laughed and unwound, danger crept closer, leaving only one question. Would they ever escape what was coming? Lauren, Adriane, and Leslie were more than just housemates. They were close friends, living in the heart of Napa Valley and sharing countless memories. On this Halloween night, they chose to stay in, away from the crowded streets, opting for a quiet evening together. The house was filled with warmth and laughter as they exchanged stories and enjoyed each other's company, safe in the familiarity of their shared home. They had no idea that the sanctuary they took comfort in was about to be violated, that a shadow lingered nearby, threatening to shatter the peace they had built. The house was quiet, with only the soft rustle of trees outside, when Chloe, Lauren's dog, suddenly broke the silence. Her barking was sharp and insistent, piercing through the stillness of the night. Startled, Lauren stirred awake, her eyes adjusting to the dim light as she tried to calm Chloe down. But something about the dog's alarmed behavior felt different, almost as if she sensed something, or someone, that didn't belong. Lauren tried to soothe her pet, brushing it off as a dog's instinct to bark at shadows. But then, her ears caught something, a faint, muffled noise from the other side of the house. A mix of confusion and worry gripped her as the sound grew clearer, footsteps, quick and unfamiliar, followed by a chilling scream that cut through the night air. Panic jolted through Lauren as she realized that the noise was coming from Adriane's room. She clutched the blankets, paralyzed for a brief moment, while her mind raced to process the unfolding horror. The reality was sinking in fast. This wasn't just a Halloween prank. They were no longer alone in their own home, and whatever was happening beyond her room's walls was anything but safe. Lauren's heart pounded as she tried to muster the courage to act, knowing that in an instant, her entire world was unraveling into a nightmare she had never imagined. Lauren's mind was clouded with terror, but she knew she had to reach the safety of the backyard. With every step, the cold air nipped at her skin, fueling her desperation to escape. She darted into the yard, searching for a place to hide, but her instincts screamed at her to turn back. What was happening to her friends? She couldn't leave them. With a heavy heart, Lauren made the decision to go back inside. It was a gamble, but the bond she shared with Adriane and Leslie drove her forward. Stepping back into the house, she was met with an unsettling stillness that sent chills down her spine. When she finally pushed open the door to Adriane's room, the sight that greeted her was nothing short of a nightmare. The room was in disarray, clothes strewn everywhere, and the bed covers were thrown to the floor. Her heart sank as she scanned the space, looking for any sign of her friends. A feeling of dread settled in her stomach as she stepped inside, her eyes landing on the closet door, slightly ajar. Adriane? Leslie? She called again, but her voice cracked with fear. Then, she noticed the dark stains on the floor, a realization that clawed at her sanity. The horror enveloped her like a heavy fog, and in that moment, she felt the walls closing in. Lauren stumbled backward, her mind racing as she pieced together the horrifying scene. They had been attacked, and she was too late. Panic surged again, flooding her senses. Without thinking, she turned and ran, the cries of her friends echoing in her mind as she fled the scene. Once downstairs, Lauren raced to grab her phone, hands shaking uncontrollably as she dialed 911. "Please, you have to help us. Someone is in our house." The words spilled out in a frantic rush. The operator's calm voice provided little comfort, but it was enough to remind her she wasn't alone in this moment. They were sending help, but would it be in time? Just as she hung up, the sound of footsteps echoed through the house, sharp and deliberate. Her heart dropped as she realized the intruder was still there, moving closer. The terror of being the only survivor gripped her, and she quickly moved toward the back door, determined to escape once more. Lauren's breath came in ragged gasps as she stumbled onto the neighbor's porch. She banged on the door, desperation evident in her every plea. "Help! Please! Call the police!" The elderly couple, startled and confused, quickly ushered her inside, their eyes wide with concern. Lauren collapsed against the wall, the weight of the night crashing down on her like a tidal wave. They hurried to help, but in that moment, all she could think of were Adriane and Leslie, the friends who had shared laughter and joy, now lost to an unimaginable horror. The air was thick with tension as the sun began to rise, casting an eerie glow over Napa Valley. Police cars surrounded Lauren's home, blue and red lights flashing, illuminating the scene of horror that had unfolded the night before. Detectives moved methodically, examining every inch of the house, while Lauren stood outside, feeling as if she was trapped in a nightmare that refused to end. As the lead detective, Officer Martinez, surveyed the area, he noticed the chilling details that hinted at a calculated intruder. "We found blood on the carpet leading up to the stairs," he said, his voice low but firm. "And there are cigarette butts outside. This wasn't a random act. It seems like someone planned this." Lauren's stomach twisted at the thought. Her friends had been victims of a monstrous intent, not just a senseless crime. The investigation took a dark turn as officers discovered zip ties hidden in the corner of the living room. "These are used for restraining someone," Officer Martinez explained, turning to Lauren. "We believe the intruder intended to incapacitate your friends." Her heart sank as she listened, the reality of her friend's final moments crashing down on her. She felt a sense of helplessness wash over her, a weight she feared would crush her entirely. Days passed, and as the investigation progressed, Lauren found herself drowning in despair. The police were stymied by a lack of clear suspects. DNA tests were run, but nothing matched anyone known to the victims. Witness accounts painted a murky picture. Some described as shadowy figures seen lurking around the neighborhood, but no one could provide a clear description. "It's like he vanished into thin air," one officer muttered in frustration. The walls of uncertainty closed in around Lauren, leaving her feeling isolated and desperate for answers. In her quest for the truth, Lauren turned to unconventional means. She felt a connection to Adriane and Leslie that transcended the physical world, so she reached out to psychics who claimed they could communicate with the deceased. "They're still with you," one psychic told her during a session, her voice a mixture of warmth and urgency. "They want you to know that you're safe, but there's a message, someone knows something." Hope ignited within Lauren as she listened intently, desperate for any lead that might point her toward the truth. The psychic's revelations seemed to point toward a potential suspect, a name that had never come up in the investigation. "There's a man who lives nearby. He's been watching you. He has a history." The word sent shivers down her spine. Was this the answer she had been searching for? Emboldened by this new information, Lauren immediately contacted the police, urging them to investigate the individual. "Please, you have to look into this guy. He's been stalking us," she insisted, her voice shaking with urgency. But the detectives were hesitant, their faces etched with skepticism. "We need more than just a psychic's word, Lauren," Officer Martinez replied gently. "We can't act without solid evidence." Determined not to let her friends be forgotten, Lauren embarked on her own investigation. She began to gather information about the man mentioned by the psychic, researching online and speaking to neighbors. What she discovered sent chills down her spine. The man had a troubling past, with previous charges of stalking and harassment. He was known for lurking in the shadows, a ghost that had evaded capture. As Lauren pieced together the clues, she felt an unsettling connection to the mystery, a sense that she was closer to uncovering the truth, yet terrified of what it might reveal. In her heart, Lauren knew she couldn't give up. The search for justice for Adriane and Leslie was not just her mission, it had become a lifeline in her despair. As the investigation dragged on, a sense of desperation hung in the air. The community of Napa Valley was on edge, grappling with the horrific events that had unfolded. But just when it seemed like the case would grow cold, a break came that would shake everyone to their core. It began with the forensic evidence, cigarette butts collected from the scene. After weeks of waiting, the lab results finally came back. "We've matched the DNA from the cigarette butts to a local resident," Officer Martinez announced to his team, his voice steady but filled with the weight of what this discovery meant. The cigarettes belonged to Eric Koppel. Lauren's heart raced as she heard the name. Eric, her friend Lily's husband. It felt surreal. She had known him for years, never suspecting he could be capable of such unimaginable violence. Eventually, Eric was brought in for questioning. Under pressure, the truth spilled out. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he confessed, his voice trembling. "I was just so angry. They were always laughing, always together. I couldn't stand it." His words were a haunting reflection of his inner turmoil, revealing a man lost in a toxic blend of jealousy and fear. Eric had felt trapped in his own life, his insecurities morphing into a twisted need for control, a monster lurking just beneath the surface. As the news spread, the community was rocked by the realization that the murderer had been living among them. Friends and family of Adriane and Leslie were left grappling with a profound sense of betrayal and disbelief. "How could someone we trusted do this?" one of Leslie's closest friends cried, her voice breaking with anguish. "He was always so friendly at our gatherings. I can't wrap my head around it." Grief mingled with shock, and the weight of loss felt heavier than ever. In the wake of Eric Koppel's shocking confession, lingering questions hung heavy in the air. What drove him to such violence? Was it jealousy, desperation, or something darker? The motivations behind his actions remained a mystery, leaving many in the community feeling unsettled and confused.
The best friend of the woman you love. You cannot love Lily and bring another.
The tragedy not only claimed the lives of two young women, but also marked a turning point for Napa Valley, a reminder of how fragile peace can be.
And again, while in the coming years, the memory of Leslie and of Adriane will remain clear and shining bright in our hearts.
As they mourned together, the residents knew that while healing would take time, they would strive to honor the memories of Adriane and Leslie, vowing never to forget the lives stolen too soon.
Voice doesn't work. I am a broken man. Oh, this sucks. The words evade me to articulate the depths of my sorrow.
I did believe that he was truly remorseful. Those were real tears that he was crying.
If you found this story haunting and thought-provoking, we invite you to reflect on the tragedy of Adriane and Leslie. Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping true crime stories that uncover the darker sides of humanity.